Welcome to my last NFL mock draft of the year. There's going to be a long one because I decided to extend this out. I wanted to do the first 3 rounds, but after around pick 75, I just got fatigued a bit and a little bit stressed about this as I was worried this wasn't going to be correct or this isn't what I originally had, but I wanted to make sure I at least got to a point where all 32 teams made a selection. Because the Patriots don't have a pick until the 3rd round this year. Or at least that's what it's supposed to be. But I'm willing to bet they're going to at least make an attempt to trade into round 1 or round 2. I'm willing to bet that kind of happens. Especially if a certain player is still available at pick 32. I'm willing to bet they at least try to make an offer to the Saints to get that pick back. Because there was some word about Malcolm Butler signed the franchise tender tag, which means he's up for trade discussion. And I don't know if they're going to really make an attempt to trade Malcolm Butler to the Saints for that pick back. But it could be a possibility that Malcolm Butler could be traded to someone else for somebody's potential first-round pick. But I'll kind of go over that on Monday, I believe. I'll probably go over NFL draft scenarios. This may be the last mock draft, but it's not the last NFL draft talk that I have. Because I'm planning on doing maybe Monday or Tuesday, at least sometime before the draft, go through the first round, go with potential scenarios of what could happen. Anyway, I'm going to leave these picks in the description box below in case you don't have time to listen to this whole thing. So I don't know how long I'm planning on making this. I'm going to try to go as fast as I can because this mock draft was kind of frying my brain a little bit because it was kind of getting, in a way, it was making me feel fatigued and stressed about other things I was planning on doing for the channel within the next couple of weeks. But let's start off with Cleveland on the first pick, and it's Myles Garrett, defensive end, Texas A&M. Nothing's changed all throughout this mock draft season. He stays the same. Number 2, I have Sam just going with Solomon Thomas, defensive end of Stanford. Chicago, I have him going with Malik Hooker, safety of Ohio State. Number 4, I have Jackson going with Jonathan Allen, defensive end of Alabama. Number 5, I have Tennessee going with Jamal Adams, the safety out of LSU. It could be a possibility they maybe try to take a wide receiver. I'll go over that on Mondays or next week's draft scenario. That'll be mentioned in there for sure. But I feel like if the draft was tonight, they would select Jamal Adams. Number 6, I had the Jets going with Deshaun Watson, quarterback out of Clemson. Now, this could be a surprise to some. There are some that says maybe the Jets are going to draft Leonard Fournette, or maybe they're going to draft Dalvin Cook. But I'll go over that again in the draft scenarios next week. Number 7, the LA Chargers go with Mike Williams, wide receiver of Clemson. Number 8, I have Carolina going with Leonard Fournette, running back out of LSU. Now, I did read some NFL draft rumors. The Panthers are targeting Christian McCaffrey, number 8 overall. But I feel like it's too early to go with somebody like Christian McCaffrey, though, to be honest with you. Number 9, I have Cincinnati with Reuben Foster, linebacker of Alabama. Now, he may be the guy that falls deep into this first round because there was an article that came out that said he had a positive drug test at the combine. That could be one of the reasons why he mysteriously left the combine or he was sent home. Probably because of that. And it probably caused him to get upset. But that's probably what may have happened. But last year, Laramie Tunsil, he basically fell on draft night because 10 minutes for the draft, somebody hacked his Twitter account and posted a video of him with, So Reuben Foster may easily fall out of this top half of the first round. Number 10, I have Buffalo with Mitch Trubisky, quarterback of North Carolina. Now, I know Buffalo drafted a quarterback last year in Cardell Jones, and they have re-signed Tyrod Taylor. But I feel like they have to go with somebody like Mitch Trubisky, even though I don't really like his playing style, he's only played one full season. But I think the Bills end up taking this risk. Number 11, I have New Orleans with Marshawn Lattimore, cornerback of Ohio State. Number 12, I have Philly with Marlon Humphrey, cornerback out of Alabama. 13, I have Arizona with Corey Davis, wide receiver of Western Michigan. Now, there was a possibility that Arizona would probably draft somebody like Pat Mahomes. But I feel like next year's quarterback class is deeper than this year's is. Because next year we're going to have potential quarterbacks like Josh Rosen, Jake Browning, Sam Darnold, Lamar Jackson. We're going to have we're going to have all these different quarterbacks. And 3 of those 4 quarterbacks I just mentioned are in the Pac-12 conference. So I truthfully feel like if you're wanting to get a franchise quarterback, I feel like next year is the year to do that. I feel like this year you're not really going to necessarily find the franchise quarterback or the face of the franchise like you would think of finding a Peyton Manning or an Andrew Luck or even a Tom Brady or a Ben Roethlisberger or an Eli Manning or a Phillip Rivers. I feel like those types of guys are in next year's quarterback class. Number 14, I have Philadelphia going with Dalvin Cook, running back out of Florida State. 15, I have Indianapolis going with Derek Barnett, defensive end of Tennessee. 16, I have Baltimore going with Tarkis McKinley, defensive end of UCLA. Number 17, I have Washington with Hassan Reddick, linebacker of Temple. Now, Hassan Reddick is the guy. He's the second-round prospect with first-round talent. I think he gets right into this first round because of the way he was at the Combine. The Combine really helped his draft stock. He went from a second-round prospect to a mid-first rounder. I wouldn't be surprised if Hassan Reddick went even earlier than 17. Number 18, I have Tennessee going with John Ross, wide receiver of Washington. Now, in this particular mock draft, John Ross is still available. Yes, I had some comments in the comment section of the last mock draft about how he dropped so many passes. But I feel like with the speed of John Ross, I feel like Tennessee, I feel like they just snatch him up right when they can. Because if they don't, he's probably gone within the next couple of picks at the end of the first round. So I feel like Tennessee gets a huge steal of John Ross. I mean, he reminds me of a Julio Jones or an A.J. Green. Based off his speed and his catching ability, Julio Jones had a history of dropping passes in Atlanta. I believe it was the year they went 4-12. Julio Jones, he missed most of the season, but in the games that he played, I think he dropped at least 5 or 6 passes in those 4 games that he played. So the only thing holding back John Ross from being a top 10 pick is he dropped too many passes at Washington. Number 19, I have Tampa Bay going with Taco Charlton, defensive out of Michigan. Number 20, this is kind of a surprise pick, but I'm being convinced by somebody in the comment section of the last mock draft. Denver goes with Christian McCaffrey, running back out of Stanford. Now, I feel like this isn't necessarily the go-to pick in a way. But now that I look at it, Denver needs a running back. They need kind of the running back of the future. I mean, this is just pretty much I don't know how you would describe it. It's kind of like poetic justice in a way, because his father, Ed McCaffrey, was a wide receiver for the Denver Broncos, and he was on the Super Bowl team. So it would only be poetic justice to have Chris McCaffrey on there as a running back. Number 21 at the Detroit Lions with Jabril Peppers, safety linebacker to Michigan. And the only thing that was holding back Jabril Peppers in this draft is not a lot of teams know where they want to put him. I feel like he's going to be more of a linebacker than a safety. Because the more the most of the highlight films I saw him, he was in the linebacker position. But Jabril Peppers can do it all. I mean, he did just about anything at Michigan. He was a running back, he was a safety, a linebacker, punt returner, kick returner. I think he even attempted a pass, but it was incomplete. So Jabril Peppers, he's basically the versatile athlete of this draft class. And there's also another guy that's a kind of a versatile athlete as well, but he's later in this first round, so stay tuned. 22, I have Miami going with Malik McDowell, defensive tackle of Michigan State. 23, I have New York Giants going with Cam Robinson, offensive tackle of Alabama. Number 24, I have Oakland going with T.J. Watt, outside linebacker of Wisconsin. I think T.J. Watt sneaks into this first round. I mean, I feel like any other year he'd be in the second round, but I think with the year of how deeply defensive this first round's probably going to be, I think he sneaks into the first round. 25, Houston with Pat Mahomes, quarterback at Texas Tech. Now, this pick makes sense. I mean, it's almost perfect. I kind of talked about in the last mock draft where keep the Texas kid in Texas. 26, I have Seattle going with Garrett Bowles, offensive tackle of Utah. It kind of adds depth to the offensive line. 27 of Kansas City going with Davis Webb, quarterback out of California. I feel like Kansas City needs a quarterback desperately. And if you're trying to probably go for a short-term thing, like a 3 to 5 year deal, like a 3 to 5 year ordeal with a quarterback, I think Davis Webb is the guy to do that. Because Alex Smith is kind of getting up there in age. So I'm thinking they got to bring in a younger guy to have a quarterback battle. Number 28, I have Dallas going with Adoree Jackson, quarterback out of USC. Now, he was also a kick returner at USC, so he can be utilized on special teams. 29, I have Green Bay going with Quincy Wilson, cornerback out of Florida. 30, I have Pittsburgh going with Charles Harris, outside linebacker of Missouri. Atlanta, go Forrest Lamp, offensive guard of Western Kentucky. 32, I have New Orleans going with Garion Conley, cornerback of Ohio State. Right on to the second round. I'm only naming these fast because I want to kind of get this done as soon as possible. 33, I have Cleveland with Deshaun Kaiser, quarterback out of Notre Dame. 34, I have San Francisco with Tre'Davious White, cornerback out of LSU. 35, I have Jacksonville with O.J. Howard, tight end out of Alabama. Now, this is kind of the pick that is kind of a controversial pick, in my opinion, because I have O.J. Howard outside the first round. I mean, over the years, there's been this one prospect that's hyped up to be a first-round talent, but falls in later in the draft, like falls in the second round. And I think this year that's O.J. Howard. Because when you look at his tape, you think of the 2016 National Championship game where he had 6 receptions for 209 yards and 2 touchdowns. Because that's for most people that's his career-defining game at Alabama. That's like the only highlights you have of him. So that's why I have him falling out of the first round, because a great NFL player isn't defined for one game. 36, I have Chicago with Ryan Ramczyk, offensive tackle of Wisconsin. 37, the LA Rams going with Zay Jones, wide receiver of East Carolina. I feel like any other year, Zay Jones would be a first-round pick, late first round. I mean, this guy was a beast at the Senior Bowl. He was the MVP of the Senior Bowl. He was the best wide receiver out there at the Senior Bowl. So I feel like that really helped his draft stock. So I feel like if this was last year's NFL draft, he'd be a first-rounder. I think he's that talented. He's got great hands. Great route runner. 38, I have the LA Chargers going with Chris Wormley, defensive out of Michigan. 39, I have the Jets going with Sidney Jones, cornerback out of Washington. 40, I have Carolina going with Jarrad Davis, linebacker out of Florida. 41, I have Cincinnati going with Chidobe Azui, quarterback out of Colorado, 42, I have New Orleans Saints going with Curtis Samuel, wide receiver of Ohio State. Philadelphia, I have Tyus Bowser, outside linebacker out of Houston. Now, here's another guy that maybe if he was in next year's draft class to be a first-rounder, But due to the fact that this first round is probably going to be highly defensive, I have him going toward the top, toward the middle of the second round. But I feel like this is a guy that if we had him in next year's class, he'd be a first rounder. I feel like he has that kind of talent. At 44, I have Buffalo with Juju Smith-Schuster, varsity of USC. 45, I have Arizona with Tease Tabor, cornerback out of Florida. 46, Indianapolis with Alvin Kamara, running back out of Tennessee. 47, Baltimore, Chris Godwin, wide receiver of Penn State. 48, Minnesota with Caleb Brantley, defensive back out of Florida. 49, I have Washington with Obi Melifonwu, safety out of Connecticut. Number 50, I have Tampa Bay going with Joe Mixon, running back out of Oklahoma. Number 51, I have Denver going with David Njoku, tight end out of Miami, Florida. 52, I have Cleveland going with Cooper Kupp, wide receiver of Eastern Washington. For 53, I have Detroit going with Budda Baker, safety out of Washington. 54 of Miami going with Deion Dawkins, offensive tackle out of Temple. 55 of the New York Giants go with Samaje Perine, running back out of Oklahoma. 56 I have Oakland with Zach Cunningham, linebacker out of Vanderbilt. 57 I have Houston with Evan Ingram, tight end out of Ole Miss. 58 I have Seattle going with Kevin King, cornerback out of Washington. 59 I have Kansas City with Jordan Lewis, cornerback out of Michigan. Number 60 I have Dallas going with Tim Williams, defensive end of Alabama. He also played outside linebacker. 61 I have Green Bay going with Larry Ogunjobi, defensive tackle out of Charlotte. 62 I have Pittsburgh going with Malachi Dupree, wide receiver of LSU. Number 60 I have Atlanta going with Dan Feeney, the offensive guard of Indiana. And rounding out the second round, I have Carolina going with Isaac Asiata, offensive guard of Utah. In the second round, there's a lot of big names to stick out. Like I mentioned, Deshaun Kaiser going at 33 to Cleveland. I feel like that's probably the quarterback Cleveland needs. Because Deshaun Kaiser already says he could be the best quarterback of all time. That he has combinations of Cam Newton and Tom Brady. But I honestly could see that. But I feel like he needed to stay for his senior season. I feel like if he were in next year's quarterback class, he'd be probably one of the first two quarterbacks taken. Ryan Ramczyk, offensive tackle of Wisconsin. I feel like due to the fact that it's going to be highly defensive, he goes just outside the first round, as well as O.J. Howard. But I said O.J. Howard was falling outside of the first round because when most people look at his highlight films, they only look at that national championship game against Clemson 2 years ago. Zay Jones, like I said earlier, if he was in last year's draft class, he'd go in the first round because he's that talented. The same with probably Tease Tabor and Tyus Bowser. I feel like if those two as well were in last year's group, they would be first rounders. And Joe Mixon of Oklahoma, this guy's a talent, but the question is, the only thing that's stopping him from honestly being earlier than he is probably that off-the-field incident from 2014. And of course, he was overshadowed by that, and also Samaje Perine, I have at 55 going to the Giants. Now let's go to the third round now. Now, I only have this at 75 because New England finally picked 72. So, 65, Cleveland go with Montravius Adams, defensive end out of Auburn. 66, I have Saints going with Carlos Henderson, wide receiver of Louisiana Tech. 67, Chicago with Raekwon McMillan, linebacker of Ohio State. 68, Jackson with Taylor Moton, offensive tackle of Western Michigan. 69, I have the LA Rams going with Carlos Watkins, defensive tackle of Clemson. 70, I have the New York Jets going with Fabian Morrow, cornerback out of UCLA. 71, I have the LA Chargers going with Desmond King, cornerback out of Iowa. 72, I have New England with Ryan Anderson, defensive end, outside linebacker of Alabama. 73, I have Cincinnati with David Sharp, offensive tackle of Florida. 74, I have Baltimore with Nico Siragusa, offensive guard of San Diego State. And rounding out this mock draft, I have 75 guys, the Buffalo Bills going with Tony Garcia, offensive tackle of Troy. I wanted to go longer, but I just wanted to get this out as soon as I could because I was taking so long with the second round. Because once you get into that second round, it's hard to identify a lot of the prospects. Though there are some great talents that go in later rounds. I mean, based off history, there are a bunch of talented guys in the NFL now that weren't first-round picks, that weren't second-round picks, that weren't necessarily third-round picks. They were fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and undrafted free agents. So, no matter where any of these players go, we can't assume that they're going to be the player that changes the franchise. Do they go into the right system? Do they have the winning attitude? Do they have the desire for greatness? Like, let's not just assume that Myles Garrett is going to single-handedly get Cleveland a playoff spot next year. Because that's not going to happen. You can't have your franchise be based off one guy. The teams that win championships in any sport, it's not about star players. It's about the team. Think about what the Patriots do. The franchise hasn't been built around Tom Brady. He wasn't the guy that single-handedly changed the franchise. Some think that he did. But I don't think he did. I feel like, just think about the people around him. Malcolm Butler. He wasn't a first-round pick. Wasn't a second-round pick. Wasn't a third-round pick. Wasn't a fourth-round pick. Wasn't a fifth-round pick. Think about Arian Foster. Undrafted free agent. Think about Antonio Brown. Not a first-round pick. Not a second-round pick. Not a third-round pick. Not a fourth-round pick. So you just got to think. Let's not make fun of the teams that draft somebody that may not necessarily be the prospect that we want. Let's not send hate tweets or hate emails to our favorite teams for drafting somebody that we don't think that is going to fit. I honestly was upset with the Falcons draft pick in the first round last year. But then look what happened. I even put the Falcons with the third worst draft class last year. And that draft class ultimately was part of their Super Bowl run. It may have come up just short. But let's not judge. Let's not judge the team's decisions. They get paid to make these decisions for a reason. So let's not be quick to criticize, or let's not be quick to assume that their career's going to be over if they go to Cleveland, or if they go to San Francisco, or if they go to Chicago. Let's not assume anything. Well, that's all I have for you today. Like and subscribe to the channel. I will see you in my next video. Anyway, enjoy the NFL draft. I'm going to be back with NFL draft scenarios, so I will see you then. It's going to be sometime next week, and I cannot wait to present it. I will see you then.